Welcome to the E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Founded in 2013, the EHL is your next step on the path to college. Over the past decade, the EHL has established itself as the college placement leader on the East Coast. And now, here's your host, the commissioner of the Eastern Hockey League, Neil Ravin.
Thanks, Jim. And with that, let's bring in Jeff and Anthony. Guys, are we mentally and physically preparing ourselves to eat lots and lots of food tomorrow?
One correct answer, Anthony.
Yeah, well, I did go ice skating the other day. You know, there's a arena just a few towns away from me. I've been doing some stick and puck sessions, so
Okay.
gotta just get ready for the big day.
Yeah.
What move are you making ready for Frozen Finals this year, Anthony? You can do the Forsberg, the Datsuk. Which move are you going to embarrass Tyler Arago with again?
You'll
As
see.
he pants him out of his pads.
The goal is just for Tyler to legit pull his groin again right before calling a game, just like last year, right?
Just an absolute shambles standing.
Myself personally, for tomorrow, it's obviously my first Thanksgiving as a dad now, right?
Yeah.
So I am preparing for like full dad mode, like mid-afternoon nap. Like, you know how turkey can just knock you out?
Well, I was gonna say, Fun fact for our listeners, it's actually not because of the tryptophan in turkey that makes you sleepy. The reason why people are sleepy is just because of the large caloric intake just from all the food.
Okay.
So it's not just the turkey that really makes you sleep. It's just because everyone just has so much at Thanksgiving dinner. That's why you get sleepy.
And with that,
Neil, to answer your question, I am ready for massive amounts of turkey. It's gonna be my first wedding my first wedding. Jesus Christ, my first Thanksgiving as a married man. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what us married folk do it differently than us engaged or single folk at Thanksgiving. But I'm ready to pound turkey, meat stuffing, all sorts of good stuff at my mother-in-law's.
And take a short break, Jeff. That's why you said it. We need a short little break here from the action. But with that,
quick one.
We'll recap the 19 games that took place in the EHL since the last podcast and look ahead to the action returning on the 29th now with Around the E Show.
Let's take a look at what's going on around the E Show.
Around the E Show is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code EHLB1, that's EHLB1, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
So yes, in between podcasts, it didn't feel like that much had happened, but there were still 19 games in the EHL. You know, I guess it's partially my own fault, right? Increasing the league up to 23 teams. We still had 5 games last Thursday, 5 games last Friday. It is fun, you know, because I always circle this back to scheduling, Anthony. It's always interesting to see how guys want to schedule things, right? So, like, obviously we don't have the Thanksgiving game this year, but it's always like unique just to see how teams line things up before Thanksgiving and coming out of Thanksgiving, and just knowing that December is always like this like mad sprint for some reason. It's like this rush to get in 7 games before Christmas. But you know, when you look at this past week's schedule, like I said, 5 games Thursday, 5 games Friday, and then I found it interesting that the Huntsmen chose to go to the Chiefs for, you know, a 2-game series on Monday and Tuesday to wrap things up for them right before the break. Fortunately for them, it was like a productive trip. They won both games, but you guys can tell me if you feel differently. But when you have teams that take trips like that, like, it wouldn't have surprised me if they had split those, because, you know, these kids, this is their first chance to go home since the beginning of the season, right? And, like, that's kind of an interesting trip to take when, you know, in the back of your mind, right? Hey, I have a flight home tomorrow. Like, but I still have to drive back on the bus first from Connecticut. Do you guys feel differently?
No, I actually feel the same way, Neil and Anthony, and it's actually funny because different sport, but got like that same message last night from doing Northeastern women's basketball. The head coach, Priscilla Edwards-Lord, said they had won. They had only been down they were down once the first 20 seconds in. and then they never were down the rest of the game. But it was still kind of one of those weird games. And she said, holiday game. Yes. As a coach, she said, typical holiday game. Why? Because of what you just said. People already have their heads in the turkey, in the stuffing, and they're ready to go, see family and just kind of get a break and just get a release. So, yeah, for the Huntsmen to go in 3-1, 3-2, job well done. They're in that tightly packed South Division that every 2 points is a crucial 2 points. So, surprised, yeah, but I guess not surprised. That team's on a mission. Love you, Zach Overholzer. Best friend. Once a podcast, got to get him in there.
Yeah, well, we're starting south right now and basically working our way north. I just found like we had that regional showcase last Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they didn't have anything in between those 2 games and then the 2 with the Chiefs. But then you look at, say, the Bears, right? They played Tuesday, Wednesday, and then again on Thursday against the Rough Riders. Off against nobody, obviously, Friday, and then play the Apple Corps Saturday. They hit the break, winning all 4 of those games. Anthony, are they saying to themselves, we wish we weren't stopping right now, we could just keep going, or is this just good momentum to head home with?
I mean, they have won 18 of 21 games. So I think it's more than just a hot streak or a small sample size. Like the New Jersey Bears, they're for real, and I don't think that they're really going to mind, taking a break. Maybe they need it, and who knows what they can accomplish coming out of the break, or they fall flat, which could also happen. But I mean, either way, you got to tip your cap to the Bears for having such a tremendous start to the season. But also, those games are pretty high scoring too. Apple Corps put up a heck of a fight against them. The Connecticut Rough Riders, that was a 1-goal game. So, the Bears are doing well, but a lot of teams are right there with them.
And what I think is interesting about those 2 teams that we mentioned so far. So the Huntsmen returned from the break on the 29th to face the 87s, and then the Bears returned from the break also on the 29th to face the Little Flyers, who themselves have won 3 straight games. The difference is the Little Flyers were done after the regional showcase.
Same with the 87s.
So it's the same thing, right? So when it comes to the Little Flyers and 87s, you both end the regional showcase with a win, right? Little Flyers with 2 wins, and then you're on a longer break than those 2 teams that kept going, who still won their games, right? I guess it's like the easy question is, which one would you rather be? Would you rather have kept going? Hindsight's 2020 because they won the games, right? But would you rather have kept going and cross off 2 more games like those other teams did, or hit the break early and feel more rested when you come back out on the 29th? This truthfully is probably the first time in, I want to say, 2 or 3 years we've had this much of a gap on the EHL schedule with no games at all. Like typically,
because of the Walpole Seahawks Thanksgiving game.
Well, and then we've typically always had a few games like right after the holiday,
Black Friday, Saturday. It's been a busy sports weekend.
A game or 2, right? So we have this huge gap this year that I'm not saying I hate it, right? We can all take a breather, but I just find it unique. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. And geez, I thought you were going to bring up I thought I was going to hear R and R maybe mixed in there.
Rest versus Rust.
Yes, folks. Yes. Have you been following along for 194 episodes? If you haven't, you had Rest versus Rust. You win on the EHL Swag Bag. Just kidding.
Maybe that is just the full topic of episode 200. We're still trying to figure out, like, 200 is going to be a really special one. So, like, maybe we just focus on Rest versus Rust.
What is that 200th episode going to be? Is that going to be close to the holidays?
That will be right after the new year. It'll probably be the first episode back. It's probably January 4th or 5th. Like, that's the first one coming out of the holiday break. So,
oh boy, because actually episode 100, correct me if I'm wrong, was it Cubs that we had for a long interview?
I had Mark Kumpel on, and I had Mick Deaver too. Mick Deaver was the Bandits who broke his neck back in the 16-17 season, I want to say.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And like what an incredible recovery he's gone through to be able to walk again. So
that's quite the 100th episode there, Commish. I don't know.
I don't know if I could.
Can you double that?
Yeah, I set a really high bar for 100, so I got to figure out how to match that, I guess, for 200.
But maybe Stevie Eiserman for episode 200, Alex DeBrincat, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Sprinkle your Red Wings in.
Yeah, but like I said, those two teams, or those four teams, I should say, coming out of the break, all return on the 29th. Philly Hockey Club. What's funny about them is like they're them and Maryland, two teams we haven't touched on yet. It feels like every game Philly Hockey Club is in is going to a shootout lately. Is that just me? Like it feels like they're always in a shootout. And I got to give Maryland a lot of credit. Like kind of a slow start to the year, but they've really picked things up as of late. And while the Bears have a 12-point gap there at the top, and that could be that gap could close as the season progresses. You look at where these teams stand heading into this Thanksgiving break. You got 87s and Huntsman locked up there, like 1 point apart. 87s do have 3 games in hand. Two games, 4 points behind them. Philly Hockey Club with 20 points, and then tied with 16 each. Maryland and Little Flyers. So I bring all this up because 1 week from today, we get to pick one team each, and we'll get the rest of the crew involved too, to win this division. These are the way too early frozen final picks coming. Hey Jeff, I'm not making you say which of 6 teams is going to miss the playoffs, right? Because that would really
keep me up all night.
Yes, that would really stir the pot, right? But it's going to be interesting to see where these teams fall. Obviously, the early favorite to have the number 1 seed would be the Bears, and then 87s and Huntsman look like they're going to battle for 2 and 3, and then maybe the next 3 are battling to be in the play-in game versus not in the play-in game. It's just going to be very compelling to see how this division unfolds. And we've known from the years past that it could come down to the last game of the season. I want to say last year it was ProTech versus the 87s, a 2-game set, and ProTech took 3 of 4 points to win the division by 1 point or win the tiebreaker. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So we'll see. We'll see. Again, we've touched on the fact that we're ending the season with a showcase in the South. So, but for this crew and for the crew that's offline, get ready to pick someone to win the South 1 week from tomorrow. Working up from there to the Central Division, we love our streaks column on the website.
Sure do. Guys. Always have, always will.
Doesn't look good for the Central Division heading into the break right now. I know the first 4 teams it's all a 1-game losing streak, but I guess we'll start at the top for the Railers, right, who had won 15 straight games. While
pour one out.
Well, it would have been great for them to have continued that streak. I think it goes without saying that the target on their back was growing with every win, right? Is it almost better to hit the break coming off of this loss so that you can kind of have a full clean reset when you return to action, or am I wrong in thinking that?
No, I think so. And all of us knowing Sean Bertoni and the Railers like we do, I think they would probably say the exact same thing you just said, Neil, that this will teach all the veterans and all these younger new guys they've been filtering in that, hey, Providence Hockey Club, kind of another funky team, we'll call them, where they're kind of up, down, over, and around. They're currently in 4th place, 6-9-1, 13 points. But like we've always said for a long, long time, and all the coaches actually truly say this at the showcases, you got to go out there and play. Like anyone can beat you on any given day. Railers saw that with the Bandits, pushing them to a shootout at the showcase. So, I think that it's a good loss. Just kind of give everybody a little bit of reality check.
And how about that gutsy effort though by Providence? With goals from Mason, was it Rudrud?
Yes.
Rudrud. Rudrud.
Rudrud,
Rude?
Thomas Paravalodes, Joseph Quinn, and then you have Nicholas Hansen making 44 saves on 45 shots. I mean, talk about a statement win for Providence, where they've been having an up and down season. Providence Hockey Club, they're at 6-9-1 going into the break, but they're able to end that long winning streak by the Railers. So great job there by Providence.
And they would currently host, I should say, the play-in game for that division if the playoffs started today. Obviously, they're battling in that same way as the South, 4, 5, 6 between Providence, Chiefs, and Rough Riders. And Anthony, you call out the Rough Riders 1-goal games. It has to be frustrating for them because they have just 3 wins so far this season. They've been in so many of these games. You look at the regional showcase, lost by a goal to the Spartans, who are a top 10 team standings wise so far this year. The Bears are obviously a top 5 team standing wise so far this year. But trivia for a second, because obviously we know that these teams are going to be battling with each other for each playoff spot. There's 3 wins for the Rough Riders so far this year against 2.
Let's see. Connecticut Chiefs.
Okay.
All Chiefs? Yeah, all Chiefs. 3 wins against the Chiefs.
Chiefs. So that's really interesting, right? Because now you hold a huge tiebreaker. And I know I love to get too far ahead with this, right? But if it comes down to the fact that you're tied, like you've won the games that you've had to win, that goes a long way, right? And that this season could be the difference between getting into the play-in game and not getting it. And if you get into the play-in game, Team Maryland, you don't know what could happen. You could then knock off the number 1 team in your division the following series, like they did the Pro Tech last year in a wild series. That was a double overtime game 1 and then lost game 2 at home and then went back on the road and won again. I think the road team won every game in that series, right? So it's interesting. I saw that today. I was like, all right, so Rough Riders having a little frustrating start to the year, but they've won 3 games. Who have they beat? I was like, oh, Chiefs. And Chiefs. Interesting. Very, very.
They play at Newington and all? Probably not because they're too close. They're going to play farther teams. But and Steve Brown had actually said that to us. I think both Neil at the showcase about how it's been frustrating that like they're right there. Who's it? Vincent Lamberti, I think, is their starting goaltender. I don't think he's been able to come back yet. He's still been injured.
But they've run over Nate Turner from the Wizards, and he's provided some steady goals.
Serviceable. Yeah, I'd actually call a game for him. I mean, they've had issues, though. I look at some of their last 3 games. They score 4 goals, you lose 7-4. You score 4 goals again, you lose 6-4. And then you score 4 goals again, you lose 5-4. Yeah. So, I mean, they've been putting pucks in the net. It's just a matter of keep them out,
Yeah. But
easier said than done.
When we pick this,
Carson fries don't grow on trees, folks.
Trees don't grow on trees, right? Exactly.
I can tell you, Division I college hockey, there's a lot of good goaltending that's missing.
Why doesn't every team get themselves a Carson Fry? Are they all stupid?
Right.
But we'll be picking a winner in this division as well. If I had to predict Anthony's pick, it will be the Apple Corps, because he's picked them in the past. Anyways, we go further up to the East Division. I thought about skipping this for a second, but the more and more time passes, like it's just like continues to solidify the fact that this is the top division this year, right? Things can change.
They're nasty.
Like things can change, like out of any break, additions here, you name it, right? But in terms of 1 through 6 overall depth, you have to say and label this division as the top division. Rangers hit the break, having won 7 straight games, 17-4-0 so far. Starting to kind of score at will a little bit too. East Coast Wizards 14-4-2, having won 5 straight games heading into the break. Express Hockey
they're
Club,
real too.
Like Express have been so like, I don't want to say quiet
steady
this year, but they've just kind of like snuck under the radar because they've only played 16 games so far, right? Like when this game count evens out, like it gives me flashbacks to, I want to say, the Little Flyers a few years ago, were behind
Yep.
in game count just like this. And it was like everyone kept saying, well, when they catch up on games, like we'll have to see where things are at. And like the Express, they have 5 games in the hand on the Rangers, a team that they've beaten already this year, and they're 12-4,
Yeah.
right?
I just saw Todd Sterling at Bentley the other night. He said that. He was like, yeah, he's like, we're playing well, and we still got a lot of games. I was like, you guys have a ton of, like, you have the most games left out of any team, Todd. Like, you still have a lot of season left. And he was like, yeah. He's like, yeah. And I was like, and all evens out to 46 at the end. And he agreed. And
they have 30 games.
Yeah, they could do some serious damage.
Another team that's flown under the radar in that East Division, the Boston Junior Terriers. Yeah. What a great inaugural season they're having so far. Yeah. And it just stinks for them because they're in such a jam-packed East Division. But, they've taken it in stride.
They just shut out Chris Rell in the Avalanche the other day. We'll get to the North Division in a sec.
I was going to say.
Sorry, Chris.
We already touched on, hitting the break off a win versus a loss, et cetera, et cetera. You shut out the Avalanche last Friday 4-0. If you're the Terriers, right? It's almost like, hey, can we reschedule that Rangers game the next day, whether we win or lose? Like this would be that would have been such a great, like, we're gonna head home on this note type game. You know what I mean? They lost.
Those are my what to watch first. Those are pretty good.
Yeah,
one good. Well, no, not so good.
They lost the next day to the Rangers, and then like you really can't sleep on those bottom 2 teams. The Seahawks, if you don't show up, they can get you. And we'll talk about him more in fantasy. But Flanagan, the goaltender for the Bandits, is catching a lot of attention from around the league, and he's carried them to a few of their wins recently. They've definitely been playing better as of late. I know, Jeff, you pointed this out on a recent podcast. That Drevich had done the math out for the teams that his team had faced with the winning percentages, right? So
it was like almost 700. It was like 667, I think he
said. So, watch out for the bottom of that division. Like you can't sleep on any of those teams as they battle for playoff positioning and for our votes too next week and who we're each going to pick to win that division. But then we'll wrap it up, Jeff, as you kind of just teased there, with the North Division. And maybe the better way to describe the North that was arguably the strongest last year is that they are I haven't done this in a while. They are really the who are they division this year. Like without a doubt, right? Because
we haven't really played who are they a lot this year.
Well, I think it has to be who is the North Division? Who are it's just like who are the Avs? Who are the Lumberjacks? Like these teams will lose a game when you don't think they're going to lose a game, but then win a game when you don't think they're going to win a game. Right. And it's like, we know, and when these picks come out, maybe I won't pick the Avs and everyone will give me heat like I always do, get for that division. Right. But when all is said and done, I do think it will have to go through Hookset in some capacity. Right. I mean, crap, we've had 5 Frozen Finals and the Avs have been in all 5 of them. Right. So
5 or 6?
6. Wow. Jeff, I need this break, Jeff. You're right. Thank you.
I got you, partner.
But my point being, like, it's one of those things in sports, right, where like for someone else to make it from the North, like it'll feel like they have to knock them off to get there, right? Which is fine, right? But it's gonna.
You gotta think the Wolves have a nice combo deal. I don't know. You got Mr. AJ Lacus Basile. I don't know if he's taken Jake's last name on yet. I think Jake really would like that. Matthias Johansson, Joakim Cameron's all of a sudden slid quietly into the top of the EHL points league. Cameron Reardon, we've talked about forever. Guy starts every freaking game.
Yes.
Will that come back to haunt him, though? Will that tire him out by the end of the season?
Versus Ross.
But yeah, I mean, I think the New Hampshire Avalanche for real too. Both of those teams, Seacoast, like everybody in that division.
Yeah.
And the Lumberjacks. We talked to Seth Gustin at the showcase. He said that for the first time in his career, he told me, humble brag, Jeff, I've never been on losing teams, whether it was playing or coaching. He's 30 years old now, and he's like, I'm starting to learn some things about myself during these times of like turmoil. But he's like, the boys love each other. We know we have the right guys in the room. The room still feels good. So like you said, I mean, they played the most games in that division, but still a team that, between Seth Gustin and Maurice Rosales, that they're going to keep moving and keep moving guys in if they can, or just do whatever they can to fix the ship and start moving up the North Division standings. So, and then same with Valley too.
Look at the way Valley hits the break off a 6-2 win over the Wolves, right? A good momentum victory to head into the holiday break with. Yep. So another division.
And that was another coach, Mike Clardy, said the same thing to me when I saw him a couple weeks ago. We know we're not where we are. You guys can judge us accordingly with our record, but we like where we are. We know we're going to get better. I was like, okay, Claw, I see you.
And speaking of picks, was it last year or the year before that heading into the playoffs, they had like a presentation for their team, and I think they pulled our graphic up, and they're like, none of them picked you. And I was like,
I think Ryan did do that. Ryan loves to use us as use the fantasy
bulletin board material
show podcast as he likes to use as motivation, which I like that.
We're trying. That's why
we made this 5 years ago, right?
Yeah,
right?
That's what we're trying to do, truthfully, right? So, but yeah, we'll have 4 each of us, online and offline. E-crew members will have 4 picks to win 4 divisions next week. So Jeff, I can see you like already
not sweating. So early division winners.
Yes, Jeff, I can see you like already sweating right now over this. So
I don't know if it's the pellet stove that's in front of me or if it's my nervousness, but
shifting to the EHLP next, we'll go in reverse direction down the map and start with the New England division. I know Anthony had touched on this with his what to watch for last week. Adirondack versus the Avalanche turned out to be another very good series, and 2 teams that I know it's only year 2, but at some point they must be getting frustrated by seeing each other already, right? It must feel that way, right?
2 very different games too, huh? 7-5 Thunder and then 3-2 Avs
in overtime.
In overtime too, yeah. Which after scoring all those goals the day before, 12 goals, that'll tire you out. But hey, they were still able to muster up 5 total.
And then you look at guys like Mac Ryan, Jacob Bedard, for Adirondack, they've just been driving the bus for them offensively. And then Xander Looney for the Avalanche. Yep. Had a hat trick in that first game, 15 goals this season.
It's a good plug, Anthony. Xander Looney, Massachusetts Combine player last year.
Ooh, at the Rod?
Yes.
Wow.
So
maybe someone you would want for fantasy, folks. Take notes.
Well, and
hit the pause button.
We're going to get to fantasy here soon because we're going to record this next podcast on the 30th. The next picks are due the 30th.
That's right.
So, but you also have the Wolves right there in the middle of that division, and Vermont just played 4 games in 3 days. This past week, they actually split the games. They beat the Express, 1-1, lost one against the Seahawks, and then lost one to the Railers. Obviously, a pretty hefty trip, I would say. Heading into the holiday break. And Jeff, you mentioned this. Look at how many games they've played at the EHL level so far this year. Look at how many games they've played at the EHLP level so far this year.
Symmetrical 22.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. Oh God. Anyways, but the bigger point is like they're a bus for every road trip, right? So maybe some part of the thought process there is like the road trip that you're gonna have March 1st through 4th for that end of the season showcase. So contrary to the Express EHL, who will still have 30 games left, Vermont's probably saying like we'd rather rest up as much as we can before that final weekend. And you look at the EHL team, that final weekend could be the difference between playoffs or no playoffs. You're looking for the EHLP team. Right now, they'd be the 4th seed, but you're going to be trying to figure out who you're going to be facing that final weekend. So I like the fact that they've played more games, knowing how hard the travel truly is on both Seth and Jack's teams. So continuing down the footprint, as I said, we'll go to the Boston division next, coming off of a loss to the Rangers. The Railers just ripped through 3 straight wins to get back up to 18-2, tied for first place with 2 games in hand. These 2 teams, Railers and Rangers, are already at over 100 goals scored.
I was just gonna say, welcome to the century mark, 100 and 102. Good for you guys.
Holy Thanksgiving yet?
Are they playing a video game or are they playing like actual hockey? Plus 53 Railers, plus 46 right? Like they're doing literally like the exact thing you would like to do in like a build a GM franchise. Score a lot of goals, don't give up a lot. Win almost every game.
It's just absurd.
Perfect.
Yeah. It really is, and we've touched on this too.
And the Rangers are on their. Who's the new premier coach?
His name is Danny Ferry.
That's right. I haven't met Danny yet.
Westfield State alum. Actually,
so they've done this with 2 coaches this year.
Yeah, and you want to know what else is crazy too about the Railers and the Boston Junior Rangers? If you look at the top 10 scorers in the EHLP, they only have 1 player each from the top 10.
Great,
which is PJ Sweeney for the Junior Rangers and Nolan Tomczyk for the Railers. And everyone else is outside that top 10. You got Zach Warner-Sini at number 12. And then you have some guys from BJR just a little bit further down the list. But it really shows you that, they're scoring. They both scored over 100 goals just over 20 games into the season. But they're getting scoring from a lot of different players.
It's a great point, Anthony, because especially for the Rangers P teams in years past, it's almost felt like last season, Drake Tomac was leading the bus. If he wasn't, who was going to score the goals, right? And I think that
they had that problem in the Frozen Finals.
I think it showed itself at the Frozen Finals, right? I mean, if he didn't score, who was going to score, right? In the combo years in the past when they had the Malandrukalo Ryan Bailey duo, right? After them, there was a little bit of a drop off there. Before that, McPherson and Andrews were that duo, right? So maybe the fact that those teams are more balanced this year has them even more prepared for the Frozen Finals. But then again, don't sleep on a team like Valley, who just beat the Rangers heading into the holiday break. They go in with a big win themselves, and don't sleep on the Express either. Speaking of Massachusetts Combine players, they got Peyton Myers from the Massachusetts Combine. The Express owe me. They have like 3 or 4 players for the Massachusetts Combine. Yeah, I'm Jeff. I feel
You're that Todd Sterling.
I feel totally confident saying that hosting the Combine is an added benefit, right? Because you can have the event in your building and then be like, hey, if you sign me, this is your locker room right here, Peyton Myers.
You start the tour right then and there.
Yeah. So, but that's going to be a really fun division. I think it could be a division that our crew has the toughest time picking.
Some may not. Some may show their allegiance. Certain color train in a town that we've been to a few times.
Can you guys hear the new dog in the background this week? This is not Nash.
Oh, who's that big boy?
This is Maverick, my brother's dog, right?
Hi, Maverick.
He was hanging out for a while on the podcast, but I think he's done with us now.
Oh, what's up, bud? You want to get out?
Yeah, he's done. And actually, I think Chase just woke up too. So this is the Raven Zoo this week for Thanksgiving. There's 3 dogs, a baby, and then 6 adults right now. So we're really we're cooking.
Wow.
So
yeah,
a bunch of people coming also. But anyways, we'll wrap it up now EHLP wise in the Mid Atlantic Division, and we touched on the Chiefs and Huntsmen earlier, and maybe I'm assuming things here, but we touched on for the Huntsmen, it was a great trip for them to be able to go win both games and then head home. For the EHLP team, they didn't win both games. They won the first and lost the second. So is that one of those situations where maybe in the younger players' minds, they were starting to think ahead to heading home for the holiday break, right? And they had a pretty good, I want to say 9-game winning streak going, or 8-game winning streak. I know they had just beating the 87s this past Sunday, Anthony. So again, hindsight could be 2020 when all is said and done, but you wonder if Zach looks back and thinks about next year, the week of Thanksgiving. Do you do a Monday, Tuesday trip to Connecticut? It's something that you could go back and forth and weigh pros and cons for hours over. Truthfully.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point too. EHL, a little older, a little more mature. They get the job done. EHLP did not. And actually, I mean, even if you look at that second score, Neil and Anthony compared to the first one, 3-2 was the first game, 7-3 is the second game. So you really were just like, all right, they might have gotten down by 1 or 2, and they were just like, all right, start the buses, the old saying, and we'll go have our Thanksgiving break, and then we'll try to pick up after this. But yeah, I mean, we all know Blaze Kilroy pretty well at this point after last year, and I'm sure that's something that he's gonna use as a teaching point when the guys all come back into Exton, Pennsylvania. And yeah, I mean, I think they'll be fine, but yeah, maybe another good teaching lesson there.
What did you think of the last matchup, Anthony? 87s and Huntsman. I think it was a 2-goal game, but one was an empty netter. So, in Raven terms, it was a 1-goal game. That's what I call it.
Yeah, I mean the Huntsmen have won the last 3 matchups against the 87s EHLP teams. So yeah, the Huntsmen have. They're all very close games. So the Huntsmen came out on top for the last 3, but it just shows that these teams are really neck and neck. Ivan Borisov, by the way, breaking the regular season EHLP points record, passing Herbert's Zybots. But it's also interesting because if you look on the EHL and EHLP records pages, they do include playoff games. So if you look at that, Ivan Borisov and Zybots are both tied right now at 149?
Yeah,
I want to say. So the next one, Borisov will be the all-time record holder for regular season and postseason. But I saw the goal. All the players came out to celebrate. It was also kind of funny because none of the fans at Power Play Rinks knew, and they were shouting for a delay of game penalty for the 87s.
What's going on here?
Yeah,
Anthony, when you say that the website shows that, you can just say I show that. You can call me out for it, like you're saying. Hey,
I don't blame you. I mean, I
the
will
stats
say
and analytics crew we have in the Eastern Hockey League. Oh,
I did speak with the coaches about that. Where
it's still
especially as a broadcaster, I'm unsure. Do we recognize regular season? Do we recognize the postseason, like what it says on the EHLP website? But we had the graphic ready for that 142nd point for the regular season, so we went with that.
Maybe there's your 200th episode. We talk about stats.
I'd be down for that.
I probably to me,
just rip through the all-time records.
I find baseball stats probably to be the most interesting of all sports. I just think truthfully, there's no sport that comes close to baseball in terms of what different categories they have or whatever. But when it comes to
there's no league that with stats and analytics crews like baseball.
Yes, true. But when it comes to hockey stats, my personal opinion is there are games that count and there are games that don't count. The preseason doesn't count. Regular season and postseason count. So I've always just combined them all together, right? Because to me, games that count are games that count, right? So
I would love to see advanced stats at the EHL level, because you look at the NHL where they have not just Corsi, Fenwick, PDO, but expected goals, where they have the heat maps of all the shot attempts when a certain player is on the ice at certain times, like 5v5 situations. So yeah, that's stuff that I would love to see at the EHL, EHLP level.
Hey, we just got our first pronunciation guide in 10 years, Anthony. So if you ask, you shall maybe receive at some point.
Yeah, we've got a long way to go.
And Elite Prospect still teases us with those projections that are kind of weird sometimes. The guy scores 5 goals. So he's going to score 76 goals this year, folks. You're what?
Yeah, exactly.
What algorithm are you using?
Yeah, but we'll have picks for these divisions as well. All of us will pick 3 division winners, and then we'll pick an at-large also. And just a reminder about how that at-large works. We'll have 6 teams that reach the division finals. 2 teams facing off in New England, 2 teams in Boston, 2 teams in Mid-Atlantic. Obviously, easy math. 3 division final series. We have 3 winners. We have 3 losers. The records of the 3 losers, whoever has the best one, will have that at-large bid, which obviously, if you look at teams in first place right now, say Adirondack wins the division, Anthony, say the Huntsmen win their division, and then say Railers win their division, the next best record would be Rangers. Obviously, they have the best 2 records in the league, Railers and Rangers. But again, you look at other teams in that division, we touched on this before, Express would be winning every other division that they would be in. Valley only played 18 games themselves. So these are going to be interesting picks, just like the EHL for everyone. And I challenge the Railers crew, all the staff that work for the Railers, don't do the easy cop out and pick the Railers at both EHL and EHLP, right? Challenge delivered, I should say, right? But with that,
Jake, Mike, Trevor, Haley, Jamie.
But with that, we'll get to fantasy because, as I mentioned, we're nearing the end of November and getting ready for the start of December.
Now it's time for the eShow Fantasy Challenge. Follow along on the EHL app, available now for free on both Apple iOS and Android.
And as we start every fantasy, Jeff, we highlight our Yahoo Fantasy Hockey League first because I'm playing you this week.
You are, and actually, did you see?
Yes.
Did you see this? I wanted to say, yeah. Did you see we're tied 24.90 to 24.90 right now?
Tied, legit.
I meant to text you this yesterday. You are projected to beat me 143 to 130.
We're recording this on Wednesday, obviously, because of the Thursday Thanksgiving holiday, and the NHL. Speaking of scheduling, all right, I got to pick a bone here for a second.
Yeah, they were all off yesterday,
and they all played today. Like, why not play yesterday and then be off today?
I did real quick read something yesterday that said something about because North American teams are asking for the games to be played, but Canada isn't because they celebrate Thanksgiving a little earlier. So it's something with that, I think.
Figure it out. Figure it out.
Can you just make sure someone in your lineup gets hurt this week, Neil? Because I lost Tage Thompson for a while, and my team's just kind of in like disarray right now. So maybe DeBrincat or McJesus, one of those guys, if you want to just send them to the. Look at you, Caden Primo. I forgot you have Caden Primo.
Oh, of course I do. But
EHL, baby, Philadelphia Revolution. Hey,
there's only been one day of action for that so far between me and you, and we're obviously tied, right? I mentioned this before. I don't have a fantasy football team this year. I get too frustrated, right?
You're better off. Like, it's annoying.
I'll lose in like the most like ridiculous way possible. Right. So I said,
welcome to one of my years.
I said to Vicky, I will help you draft yours and manage yours. Right. So she's down, say it was 8.9 points on Monday night going into the Eagles and Chiefs game. She has Devontae Smith. Okay. Did you watch the whole game?
I didn't. I know Eagles won 21-17.
Yeah, so she's losing for a while, and like Smith is making a catch. He gains some points, makes another catch, gains some points. He catches this like 45-yard bomb and lands and gets touchdown on the 1-yard line. Okay? How do we begin this conversation? We spoke of ties, right? Vicky tied her matchup 85.0 to 85.0. He was 1 yard.
No.
So she said to me, because you're managing my fantasy team, I'm getting your fantasy luck now. Like, if he just rolls in for the touchdown, it's not a tie.
That's a win, right?
So,
Neil.
You know what the best contrary to all that is? Just don't do the
DraftKings
and just go to DraftKings. Exactly, Jeff. Exactly. I am
DraftKings daily, baby.
I am gonna put something. I haven't figured it out yet. Something on Thanksgiving. We obviously have three football games and then plenty of hockey games picking up here as well. And the DraftKings Sportsbook continues to have great offers for all of their new customers, don't they?
Let's work on that together, Neil. Maybe we'll text each other. We'll try to create a lineup together. NHL, NFL, get us some little Thanksgiving cash.
Yes.
And
no
if we do want to do that, we can download the app now. You can download the app now and use the code THPN because new customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5. You tracking that, people? Has the turkey hit you yet? Nope. You hopefully haven't eaten it yet. $150 instantly in bonus bets for just betting $5 on the beautiful sport of hockey. So that's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets do expire 168 hours after issuance. And do you have a gambling problem? If so, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER. You can visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, you can call 877-8-HOPENY, or you can text HOPENY, which would be 467-369. In Connecticut, help is also available for problem gambling. You can call 888-78-97777 or visit ccpg.org. Please, as always, play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. You can void this on Ontario. Bonus bets do expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023. All rights are reserved.
So now we go to our EHL fantasy. I had a good laugh this past week. There was a Wolves game where a power play assist was given to AJ Lacus and then corrected and given to Matthias Johansson, right? So
excuse me?
Yes, you look at all of the...
Did he look at Coach Kuhn and say, Coach, change that, give that switch around?
It's funny because AJ Lacus picked Matthias, right? But then you look at everyone in the top, I don't know, 15, right? Just cut it off there. Lacus, Johansson, Lacus. A lot of people have
Cam Reardon.
They did play, I want to say, one of the most the highest number of games this past month.
True.
But still out in front, Marc-Andre Dumas, 85.6 points. Identical lineup to John Kosciel with the exception of goal. Cam Reardon, 1 more point, 5 more saves. Then Carson Fry. Jen Jaslow, I believe that's
Jacob's mom.
Yeah. She's creeped up there because Jacobs played very well as of late, including that shutout against the Avalanche. In terms of our
30
staff,
points, wow.
Look at our staff right there. Trevor, Chris, then you got Colin Casey in between Anthony, the highest of the 3 of us. There's only 2 days left. I should look and see what games we have left to determine who will win this thing, right? Do we even have any P games on the 29th and 30th? Yeah, so 29th Avalanche Bandits P and 30th no P games. So
I just realized it would help if I turn my mic on.
Well, we were talking about fantasy for a while, or the fantasy for a while, right? In terms of EHL games, right? We already touched on the 87s, Huntsman, Little Flyers, Bears, Seahawks Express, and Avalanche Bandits. Those are the 4 games on the 29th. And then Providence Warriors, Applecore Railers, Little Flyers, Maryland. So you know what sticks out right then and there is there's no Wolves game to end the month of November here. So for John Kosciel, if Carson Fry gets the start in that game coming out of the break for the Bears against the Little Flyers, that could help him.
Which he most likely will.
Yeah, it could help him jump.
Gotta get him hot again.
Yeah, so it's
Riley's really good too, though, but he just doesn't play enough, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe there's some bribing that
sub 2 goals against.
Bribing that has to go the way of Jason Kilcoyne for who gets that start, right? It's funny, fantasy comes down to the final day of the month, just like everything else, right? But looking ahead to December, I know Jeff, you may already be looking ahead to December.
Yeah, it's all right. You can be honest. I am currently 33rd, but hey, I'm a little over halfway. There are 63 people, so I'm not in the absolute bottom. You know?
It hasn't been a great month for myself either. If it wasn't for Carson Fry, it's 36.6. I wouldn't be in 27th, right?
My wonderful Frozen Finals partner Tyler Rago is in 49th, so I gotta go take a second to text or call Ty and make sure he's okay,
but it's been a good month, and obviously there's been a good strong core of, we'll say, Lacus, Johansson, obviously Reardon, Fry, Jack Wyman's probably up there too, as guys that have really stood out from a fantasy perspective in the month of October. And
they're teaching the rest of us, don't get cute, just go chalk. Don't get cute, go chalk.
It's go chalk, and look at schedules too, right? You have to see how many teams each team is playing, and that was a difference in October for me, right? There were some teams or some individuals that had EHLP players selected, and there just weren't EHLP games down the stretch in October, and I kept creeping my way up. So we'll find out by around this time, a little bit later next week, who will be the next person to punch their ticket into the round of champions for the month of March for November. So,
and they can go visit your basement and get some EHL swag.
Yes. I'll probably mail it to
AKA our EHL headquarters. Yeah, I would say so. That's only for season ticket holders are allowed down there.
Oh, it's too funny. It's too funny. But again, when it comes to this fantasy, I think I said this before, Jeff. We've mixed it up every year. This one feels the most. I don't want to say real, but compelling, interesting, fun so far.
I mean, define fun, but yeah, sure.
We've democratized the fantasy process, which I'm always a fan of democracy. So
well, here we go.
And I think each month is going to get more entries. Like we got more entries the second month than we did the first month. I think it is just going to keep gaining because people do get FOMO, and I like it. I do.
So since we have only the Wednesday games next week between now and our next podcast, we won't do a big what to watch for segment, so we'll stick with fantasy here, and might as well let's talk about some names outside of the big names that we've already mentioned, the guys that are leading the league in scoring, Lacus, Johansson. Are there any other names that you think you're considering or other people should consider for fantasy in December?
Jefferson brought it up earlier. Joakim Cameron, where it just seems like he's come out of nowhere. Right. He's an 06 birth year, 26 points in 20 games for the New England Wolves. He's been really good for them as of late. So that's a player to watch out for fantasy.
I like that. Yep. I like that, Anthony. Another one I actually had that jumped out to me when I was doing some research last night is Caleb Miller. Remember we talked about Caleb Miller and his amazing story last year at the Frozen Finals? Yep. Kid had 11 points in 33 games last year, 3 goals, 8 assists. He has 16 goals, 8 assists, 24 points in 20 games this year, 3 power play goals, 3 game-winning goals, which, folks, look at the stats. Neil and everyone else in our EHL headquarters put them out there for you. Those are the bonus points that you get that give you a little extra points. So guys like Miller that can kind of be versatile, they can do things on the power play, they can score you that game-winning goal. Those will get you those extra points.
Another name I'll bring up in the EHL, David Bazin for the Seacoast Spartans.
Yeah.
He has 12 goals, 19 assists, 31 points in 17 games. Also 13 points on the power play, 4 game-winning goals. Those are also stats that can really help out for fantasy. A lot of power play points, potentially more game-winning goals. So Basin's another player to watch out for because he's been really good for the Spartans this season.
And
he was someone Trider was saying that it's gone under the radar for sure with David Basin. And I think actually when I was doing one of his games recently, he only has 1 or 2 games where he doesn't have points. So he's one of those guys that's consistently getting points when he's out there on the ice. So
and Jeff, you bring up Caleb Miller. He's second in the league in goals scored, right?
Wow.
First is Perry Goudreau, who I know was picked in October, not in November. Goudreau with 17 goals in 21 games. Like he's almost averaging a goal per game, right? That's simply
development,
right?
Right.
In terms,
good for Caleb. That's awesome.
Yeah, and in terms of goalies, we mentioned we have mentioned Fry and Reardon. Obviously, Charles Watson playing well for the Rangers as well. The combo of Aaron Matthews and Adam Casper has been terrific. Aaron Matthews is 9-0-0. That's just absurd.
He's got me a lot of points this month. Peter Dunkel, I know Anthony picked him last month. That's a good pick. He's been great with the Apple Core.
Jacob Jaslow playing very well as of late, and I just want to mention Flanagan, who I mentioned earlier for the Bandits.
I was just gonna say, you read my mind.
Like I haven't
look at the saves column.
I haven't locked in my December picks yet, but I may go that direction. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys if you guys see that I picked Flanagan from the Bandits. I know that
Okay.
The wins haven't piled up yet, but when they do win, this is like why when I had John
It's
Gibson
huge.
last year for our fantasy, like when he won, he would make
save percentage.
right? So
Right. He's no matter what, whether they win or lose, he's going to make like 35, 40 plus saves. So then you add the win on top of that. The saves alone are going to get you buckets of points. And as we said, too, the Bandits' strength of schedule should even out a little bit, too. They shouldn't be playing all gangbusters playoff teams from here till the end of the season. So
no doubt.
That's a smart tip there, Commish. Smart tip.
But we will jump to what to watch for now. Not a lot of games to circle and whatnot, but we'll jump to what to watch for and preview what's coming up.
And now here's what to watch for in the EHL and the EHLP.
What to watch for is presented by Flow Hockey, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action throughout the 2023-2024 season.
So, as I mentioned before, we're off until the 29th. So, and on that 29th, there are 4 games in the EHL, 87 Huntsmen, Little Flyers Bears, Seahawks Express, Avalanche Bandits. So maybe the Seahawks Express decided we weren't going to play on Thanksgiving. It will be the first game out of the break. Is that what they were going for?
Interesting. They're like, here we go, ready, set, we're gonna start playing.
And then the following day, as I mentioned earlier, Warriors, Providence, Apple Core, Railers, Little Flyers, Maryland. There's really not enough games for us to pick a game apiece, I would say. So let's do this.
I'm going Railers Apple Core. So.
Let's do this instead. Let's pick each a team to watch in December, because we know that next week, what to watch for, we're picking our Frozen Finals way too early picks. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot now first, get you kind of warmed up for next week. A team to watch in the month of December. Would you like me to go first?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
Okay. East Coast Wizards. For me, this is a team that we joked early on. Oh, they've started so hot. This is the opposite of what they do in September. They haven't cooled off, right? And they've added some more players here that have come in and just immediately produced, joining the likes of guys like Will Rice, who are producing from the second they got here, right? Will Rice, a recent Bowdoin commitment, could end up as the rookie of the year. Him, Perry Goudreau, top candidates, and they really just haven't cooled off for a second. And I want to see if coming out of the break and then through December, they maintain this all the way up until Christmas. So that, to me, that's the one I'm circling. My biggest team to watch in December.
I like that, Neil. I like that a lot. And I'm actually going to go with the team I was just picking in my what to watch for with my one game. And let's go with the New York Apple Core. Why not, right? We've talked about them a good amount this year. They deserve the credit. Lenny Caglioni's done a great job at revitalizing that franchise. And right off the get, you're going to play the Railers twice. And you've played the Railers twice already. You've lost 4-2 and 3-1. You are 6 points behind them. So you get, if you can sweep, I mean, that's going to be hard to do. I think the goal would be at least a split, right? But you get a sweep, you're within a regulation win of tying the Railers for first place in the Central. And then looking at the rest of December, Neil and Anthony, with their schedule, doesn't get much easier, but they can really start to show who they are. They're going to play the 87s at home. They're going to play Philly Hockey Club at home. Then they're going to have 3 games at Newington against Valley Junior Warriors, Philadelphia Little Flyers, and Philly Hockey Club again. So you get Philly Hockey Club twice in a matter of 10 days there. And then they're going to finish with the Rough Riders before Christmas break. So kind of an interesting schedule there. Teams, that you can't really judge by their records. And I know that we know Lenny and the Apple Core pretty well, that they probably, hopefully for their sakes, won't judge them by their records. But they could really make some damage this month if you compare their schedule versus the Railers and try to, finally become the new dog in the Central.
It's a similar message to the Wizards. A prove it final month of the calendar year.
Exactly.
Anthony, wrap it up.
I guess I'll have to go with the team that you always pick for the Frozen Finals, Neil, in the South Division. I'm going to go with Team Maryland because they've had an
he
up
does
and
always
down
pick him, Anthony. You're
season.
so right.
They are coming out of the break with a win, or coming into the break, I should say, with a win over Philadelphia Hockey Club in the shootout. And the other thing, too, they just got a new goaltender, Jake Hugesson. He played last season on the 87s, had a really good season, put up, I think, a .927 save percentage. This year at the Boston Junior Terriers, Jacob Jaslow has become the guy. Hugesson had a .905 save percentage. I was also looking up the stats, too. He's averaged 10 more shots per game than Jaslow, so his workload was a little heavier whenever he was in goal. And now he's coming back to a division he's very familiar with, having played for the 87s last season. So I'd like to see how Team Maryland will do with Hugesson in goal, and if he can get his game back going to what it was last season, then maybe Maryland will get some help on the back end.
For sure.
And we'll see if they can try to climb their way back up the South Division standings.
It is crazy.
Interesting. Murray Gunty and the boys.
Yeah, it is crazy that we're at Thanksgiving, guys. Feels like this season just started like a minute ago. It's absolutely flown by. But obviously, we have our picks next week for our way too early Frozen Finals predictions. We just gave you 3 teams that we're keeping closer eyes on in the month of December. We're going to be, 4 episodes more. We're already going to be at the holiday break. So we're really at this halfway point. I'm going to go charging past it. And like I said earlier, I talk about playoffs way too early every year, but once we get to the end of December, it's time for me to order the hats and it's time to gear up. Right. So
it's also time to get those Big Tony's calzones again there, Neil.
Oh God.
I'm really thinking right in your face real soon.
I'm really thinking about having Big Tony drop the opening puck this year. I really think we have to. I think in the last 2 years we've had 4 or 5 meals from Big Tony's.
Their menu is huge. We could order every day and get something different every day.
I will say this.
They're open until 4 a.m. They're a great place.
When their delivery crew, fantastic people, right? They bring it right to the front door, whatever. Yes. The vehicles they drive, you never know what you're going to get, right?
Interesting. Lawnmowers, golf carts,
At one time, the front of the car was gone. It was just gone. I was like, how is this thing moving?
Oh god.
Anyways,
I'd love to see them in the Toy Story Jeep where it just says "Yo" on the back.
I'm just picturing myself right now being like, "Hey, Tony, you want to drop the puck at our event?" He'd be like, "Oh yeah."
Tony's probably got a G-Wagon. I don't think I've never met Tony, even though they're 15 minutes from my house, but he's probably got a G-Wagon. I doubt his car's missing a bumper.
This is an unpaid sponsor plug.
Yeah, shameless plug.
Oh, but with that, I hope that you guys get a chance to relax a little bit over this break. I know, Jeff, you headed north, so you got to see the snow first.
It's pouring snow still as I look out the window of my mother-in-law's cottage.
Yeah, I'm not jealous of you for that. So you can enjoy it. I don't feel doubling it.
We got a nice setup here. We're in the cottage across the street from my mother-in-law's house.
Yeah.
They have a cottage they Airbnb out, and that's us this week. So
Perfect. Well, enjoy Thanksgiving, guys. Enjoy everyone Thanksgiving at home, everyone that's listened so far this year, everyone that's participated so far this year with the fantasy. It's been a tremendous start to our 11th season.
And those who haven't, do it.
Yes, exactly. It's been a tremendous start to our 11th season in the EHL. Probably
else Anthony will deke you out of your jockstrap.
Probably more parity than we've ever had before. And we'll really start to highlight that next week when we make our way too early Frozen Finals predictions. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you, boys.
Thanks for listening to The E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.